morning, Newton North. I'm Alexia Rindisbacher.
And I'm Maya Maycumber. Welcome to this episode of the NN Update.
Do you happen to have any more Pringles?
No, I'm sorry, I already ate them all. But don't worry guys, I remember to recycle the container.
Next time, consider keeping the container and bringing it to Fulfilled Goods to refill it with a new snack. Reporter Asher Salmon Hansen takes us to Washington Street, where this innovative company is helping to reduce waste.
Every day, we hear about the impact of waste on our planet. While many of us are driven to do something about it, it can be hard to start. Shara Ertel, owner of Fulfilled Goods, has taken that first step.
I've always composted, and what I was seeing was what was left over. What you're really left with is packaging.
Known as a refillery, the first of its kind in Newton, Fulfilled Goods encourages customers to bring their own reusable containers and only buy in accordance with what they need. This way, they help reduce their waste. It was this element of sustainability that drew Shara and her eventual employees to the business.
It was something that I thought I could manage. It was something a little different. I like the fact that it had a little social good aspect to it and a way that I can make a difference.
I thought she was super brave, and I thought she was, a woman to look up to. So, yeah, I've always wanted to come in here, and I finally did, and I got a job.
The store's first employee, Olivia Sousa, believes that despite the hard work, the mission makes it worth it.
We basically do a full body workout every single shift, but changing the environment, it puts it in perspective.
While Olivia does her best each day, Shara is working behind the scenes to ensure the business stays in operation.
It's challenging, and I knew plenty of stores like mine that had closed, so I went into this with my eyes open.
Another notable difficulty that Shara has had to face is balancing sustainable products with keeping costs low.
So I knew I wanted to open a sustainable store. One of the things was, can I make a sustainable store sustainable from a business perspective? So Procter & Gamble and Tide, they're not paying for that. They're just adding to the waste that the rest of the world is paying for.
For Olivia and Shara, the impact they have is more important than the business's success.
You can just tell that she wants the message to be put out there. She wants people to hear about the store, not for personal gain, but for the Earth's gain, for the community's gain, for the environment's gain.
I would love nothing more than for the bigger stores to put me out of business and start doing this, but I don't see that happening anytime soon.
Changing old habits can be difficult, but Fulfilled Goods makes it easy and accessible to make a difference.
It might seem intimidating because it's new, and so I guess the biggest thing is just come in and check it out and see what we're all about, because I think most people come in and they're really amazed and impressed in a way that they weren't expecting.
Thanks to people like Shara and the hard work they do, we can all learn to change our habits and buy more responsibly, so that together we can strive for a better future. For NNTV, this is Asher Salmon Hansen.
It's nice to see a company so focused on helping Newton become more green.
Speaking of green, in honor of St. Patrick's Day, reporter and leprechaun Isabella Dugan surveyed our school community with an Irish twist.
Hi, Newton North. In honor of St. Patrick's Day, my team and I went around the school to spread some luck. We did a lot of research on Irish culture and realized that a lot of Irish cities sound like medical terms. So come with me as I ask our school to pronounce these words and find out which one is the medical condition and which one is the city. In honor of St. Patrick's Day, I'm going to ask you to pronounce these two words for me, and then can you tell me which one is the city in Ireland and then which one is a medical condition?
Is it a medical condition that I could get from this interview?
The first one I see is Coraganagalliagdu.
Coraganagalligugadu.
Coraganagalligadu.
Conagoragalidu.
Looks like the word calve.
Calvi.
Calve.
And Calv.
Which one do you think is the city?
I'm gonna guess the city is Calvi.
The second one just seems more like a city in Ireland because of the accent.
I'm gonna go with the first one.
Oh my gosh, I'll pay for you to go there.
Shignon?
Shignan.
You want to try again?
Chinan.
No, it's not China. This is Ireland.
Muina Blig.
Muin Bihag.
Chignan is a city in Ireland.
Well, I've had Muin Bihag. I've had it, so I can't even pronounce it because it really affected me. And Shignon is definitely a place that I've been to. There's a pub that... No, I shouldn't talk about that.
Whoa. Balladhob.
Ballet de Hob.
Eisenmenger.
Eisenmenger.
I feel like the first one's in medical chemistry.
Which one do you think is the city?
The first one.
Today was definitely not Newton North's lucky day, but I look forward to seeing all of them in Corrigunna Galley Gadu. Hopefully without Calvé. For NNTV, it's Isabella Dugan.
It's Ween Behag, you know. That's what it is. And then you go to Chignon. Well, sometimes if you go to Chignon, they have a disease called the Chignon too. It's itchy. Makes you itchy. Yes, from the seat. Am I wrong? You know, so you're going to tell me the answer? No.
I would like to travel to Ireland one day and visit some of those ancient cities.
Newton isn't quite as old, but we're getting up there. We recently celebrated the 150th anniversary of Newton becoming a city. Next up, we'll travel through our city's history and spotlight two of Newton's most prevalent topics, zoning and housing. Reporter Anasha Kaskar has the story.
The Newton we know today is one of Boston's most prominent suburbs, shaped by its education, public safety, but most recently, rising house prices. Newton home prices reached a median of $1.5 million this year, over $1 million more than the average Massachusetts home value. 2024 marks the 150th anniversary of Newton's cityhood. So how did Newton separate so far from the average Massachusetts home and continue to rise so high? Let's take a look at how we got here. Made up of mostly farmland and bogs, it was only along the Charles River that Newton resembled the industrial progress of other New England towns. This caused the beginning of Newton's population growth. By 1873, more than 17,000 residents had made Newton home, including a confident businessman and politician, James F.C. Hyde, who became Newton's first mayor. Descended from one of the first permanent English settlers of Newton, James Hyde envisioned a new government, a city government, that would better represent the interest of the town. And to Hyde, the interest of the town was expansion. In his first steps as mayor, Hyde persuaded the Boston, Albany, and Charles River Railroad to expand, completing the Circuit Railroad which connected the north and south sides of Newton to Boston in a massive loop. Along the new railroad, new villages began to pop up, such as Chestnut Hill, Newton Highlands, and Waban. By 1892, the need for local lines had become apparent, and a trolley line opened up on Walnut Street. With the introduction of the trolley, Newton experienced a significant increase in population, nearly doubling to over 43,000 by 1915. Additionally, by 1905, more than 50% of the population were born to foreign parents. These immigrants settled mostly in manufacturing villages where they could find work, such as Nonantum. Having entered the 20th century well established in both population and transportation, Newton seemed well set for the century ahead. But everything was about to change. The automobile allowed for transportation freedom like never before seen in America. This freedom allowed areas untouched by the Circuit Railroad to be accessible to development. With a clamor for this new land, regulation was needed. In 1921, the city proposed its very first zoning regulations, dividing the city into single residences, general residences, business, commercial, and industrial districts. From the very beginning, there was a major push to preserve most of Newton for single-family housing. The Secretary of the Chamber of Commerce stated in the Newton Graphic in 1921 that he understood. There are others who work in Newton but do not feel they can afford to live in Newton. He proposed it would be an advantage if a successful effort could be made to provide modest homes and living conditions within the means of these people. Modest homes and living conditions meant more multifamily houses, which led to the passing of the 1921 proposal allowing both one- and two-family housing in the most restrictive district. This trend of rezoning general housing districts, which provided for three-family or more housing, survived through the Great Depression, with focus shifting to preserving bigger house lots to maintain a suburban feel and ensure that only single houses would remain dominant. Entering the late 1920s and 1930s, as the effects of the Great Depression ravaged the nation, the Roosevelt administration attempted to deal with the issues. In 1934, the first National Housing Act was passed, which denoted how desirable certain areas were for housing, and accordingly how real estate investments should be handled. This began a practice known as redlining, a way to use policy to discriminate and prevent certain people, mainly minorities, from settling in certain areas. By the 1960s, Newton was one of the only markets for larger existing homes. Thus, the average price of a Newton home topped topped $45,000. This was more than twice the price of a Boston home. These changes were exacerbated by the building of the Massachusetts Turnpike in 1952, which cut directly into the city. Newton resident William F. Callahan created the Massachusetts Turnpike Authority, a massively powerful agency which used private funds. The agency was additionally able to take any lands deemed necessary for highway construction, despite pushback from the residents. This cut directly through Newton's only historically black neighborhood, around the Myrtle Baptist Church in West Newton. The residents were given less than a month to vacate and were often given inadequate compensation. Overall, the highway displaced 550 families and sliced through a community that had been around since before Newton's cityhood. Road construction in Newton had gone from making new areas accessible to making Newton largely exclusive, as well as hostile to diverse communities. Housing prices and exclusiveness continued throughout the 20th century into the 21st. Newton grows more unaffordable every day, despite community organization efforts. But could zoning be the key to transitioning to a more affordable and accessible Newton? A 2019 report from the Massachusetts Housing Partnership shows that 261 transit stations have fewer than 10 homes per acre around them. In 2021, Massachusetts passed the MBTA community laws, which require city zoning laws to develop multifamily housing within a half-mile radius of train stations. In Newton, this has led to a proposal to rezone 6 villages in the city just this December, allowing for construction of more housing units in this area. This proposal aims to create taller buildings that can accommodate both residential and commercial spaces. Currently, many businesses in Newton are located in single-story buildings. Under this plan, buildings will be allowed to have heights ranging from 3.5 to 4.5 stories. In order to comply with this law, Newton will need to zone for an additional 8,330 affordable units. Through this, Newton will continue to grow, expand, and build for many years to come. For NNTV, this is Anasha Kaskar.
Thanks, Anasha. Newton has already zoned for 8,745 additional units, which is 415 over the state's requirements. It's refreshing to see how this anniversary is marking a shift in Newton's history.
That's all we have for this episode. If you have your own story that you'd like to share, DM us on Instagram at NewtonNorthTV. We're looking forward to hearing from you.
Happy St. Patrick's Day. We'll see you next time.